Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're diving into a story that, well, it's intense, to say the least. We're talking about Roman Emperor Nero and a young man named Sporus. Buckle up.
Yeah, this one is a wild ride. We're relying on accounts from some pretty heavy hitters in the ancient history world, folks like Tacitus and Suetonius, and, well, they're known for their, let's say, colorful portrayals of Roman emperors.
Right. So, what are we aiming for today? What's the mission of this deep dive? I mean, it's not just about the salacious details, right?
Definitely not. We're trying to get to the heart of this historical relationship, see how it fits into the bigger picture of Nero's reign, which was, pretty tumultuous to say the least. And of course, we can't ignore the tragic elements of this story.
I mean, you can't really talk about Nero without touching on the whole tyrant thing, can you?
No, you really can't. But to be fair to the guy, he wasn't born a tyrant. He actually became emperor super young, like 16 years old. I can't even imagine the pressure.
That's 54 CE for those keeping track. And yeah, at first there was genuine hope. He had some pretty level-headed advisors like Seneca, the Stoic philosopher.
Right, Seneca. Seemed like Rome might be in for a golden age. But then things started to take a turn.
Yeah, a dark turn.
Exactly. The erratic behavior, the cruelty, it all ramped up as his reign went on. That makes you wonder what happened, right? We'll flip the switch.
Well, absolute power corrupts absolutely, as the saying goes. Maybe it was just the weight of the throne, the constant scheming, the never-ending threat of assassination. It's got to mess with your head, right?
I mean, you're probably not wrong. Plus, there were whispers about his personality, even from a young age. People said he was impulsive, prone to fits of anger. Maybe those traits just intensified over time.
And then there's Poppaea Sabina, his second wife. She can't be left out of this story.
Oh, absolutely not. Poppaea was a major player, ambitious, beautiful, and she had Nero wrapped around her little finger. For a while, anyway.
Until 65 CE, when things went very, very wrong.
Yeah, Tacitus and Suetonius, they don't hold back on the details. They describe this huge fight between Nero and Poppaea. She was pregnant at the time, and according to them, Nero flew into a rage and, well, he kicked her.
And she died. It's brutal. And it really sets the stage for the darkness that's about to engulf everything. You have to wonder, though, was this cold-blooded murder or was it a moment of uncontrolled rage? We'll never really know, will we?
We won't, but either way, it's a turning point. It's like Nero crossed a line he couldn't come back from.
So Poppaea is gone. You'd think Nero would mourn, maybe find another wife to solidify his power. But no, he fixates on this young slave named Sporus. Why?
Well, the ancient sources are pretty clear on this one. Sporus looked a lot like Poppaea. Like, a lot. It was like Nero was trying to replace her, but in the creepiest way possible.
And it gets worse. We're not just talking about passing resemblance here. Nero takes things to an extreme level.
He did. The accounts tell us that he had Sporus castrated, and then he went a step further and actually married him.
Married him. Like a real ceremony, with guests and everything?
Yeah. Well, the sources describe it as a formal event, complete with bridal attire for Sporus. It wasn't just some private thing. Nero paraded Sporus around as his wife, dressed him in empress regalia, and even gave him Poppaea's old titles.
Wow. That's a statement. Like he's saying, I'm the emperor, I can do whatever I want, even defy all of Roman tradition.
Exactly. It was a power move, a way of showing that he was above the law, above social norms, above everything. But of course, historians debate how accurate these accounts really are.
Yeah, I was just thinking, these historians, they weren't exactly fans of Nero, were they?
Not really. And they were writing after his fall when the old tyrant narrative was in full swing.
Yeah.
So it's possible they exaggerated some things to make him look even worse.
That's fair. But you're saying multiple sources, all from around the same time, mention Sporus, right?
Exactly. That lends some credibility to the story. It's not just one guy with an axe to grind. It seems like something definitely happened, even if the specifics are a little fuzzy.
Yeah. Okay, so there's definitely some truth to this relationship. Then there's the story of the ring, which sounds almost too symbolic to be true.
Yeah, the ring. This happened right before Nero's downfall. Sporus gave him a ring with a very specific gemstone on it. It depicted the abduction of Proserpina, or Persephone, if you're into Greek mythology.
And why is that significant? For those who don't remember their mythology lessons, could you break down the myth for us?
Sure. Proserpina was the daughter of Ceres, the goddess of agriculture. Pluto, the god of the underworld, well, he kind of had a thing for her. So he kidnapped her, took her down to the underworld, and made her his queen. She was basically trapped down there, forced to spend part of the year in this dark, gloomy place.
And that's pretty similar to Sporus' situation, isn't it? I mean, he was taken from his life, forced into this marriage with Nero.
Right. It's hard not to see the parallels. Whether Sporus intended the ring as a subtle message, a way of saying, hey, I'm trapped here, just like Proserpina, we don't know.
But the fact that it's recorded suggests people at the time noticed the connection, right? Like, even back then, they were like, ooh, that's some heavy symbolism.
Definitely. It adds another layer of tragedy to this whole thing.
And speaking of tragedy, things don't exactly get better for Sporus after Nero bites the dust.
No, they don't. 68 CE, the year it all came crashing down for Nero. Revolts breaking out, the Praetorian Guard turning on him. He fled Rome and ended up taking his own life.
His last words, allegedly, "What an artist dies in me." Talk about ego, even in death.
Right, but that's Nero for you. Anyway, his death left a massive power vacuum, and Sporus was right in the middle of it. He basically became a pawn in the struggle for control.
So who got their hands on him first?
That would be Vitellius Sabinus, the Praetorian prefect. He was the one who convinced the Praetorian Guard to betray Nero. He tried to seize power for himself, but he was assassinated pretty quickly.
So Sporus gets passed on to the next guy, like some kind of prize.
Yeah, it's messed up. This time it was Otho, who became emperor for a hot minute during what they call the Year of Four Emperors. Talk about a chaotic time to be alive.
I can imagine. And Otho didn't last long either, did he?
Nope. He ended up losing a battle and taking his own life, which left Sporus in the hands of Vitellius, the next emperor in line.
And Vitellius, he had some seriously twisted plans for Sporus, right?
He did. Vitellius, it was all about spectacle, you know?
Yeah.
He wanted to put on this big public show, a reenactment of the abduction of Proserpina. And guess who he wanted to play the starring role?
No. Seriously?
Seriously. He wanted to force Sporus to act out the whole thing right there in the arena, and then, well, he planned to have him executed at the end.
Oh my God, I don't even have words. What happened? Did Sporus actually go through with that?
Thankfully, no. But the ending is still heartbreaking. Faced with that horrific fate, Sporus chose to take his own life.
That's just, God, it's hard to even process. This whole story is just layers upon layers of tragedy.
It really is. And it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about the ancient world, about power, about how easily individuals can be exploited and abused.
And what's so frustrating is that we only get this story from the perspective of the powerful men. We don't know Sporus' side of things. What did he think? How did he feel about all of this? We'll never know.
Yeah, that's the real tragedy. Sporus is just a pawn in their game. He's an object of Nero's obsession, a plaything for these power-hungry emperors. We get glimpses of him, but we never really know him.
It's a reminder that history is often written by the victors, by the powerful. The voices of the vulnerable are often lost, silenced by the passage of time.
Absolutely. And Sporus' story is a powerful example of that. He was a victim of circumstance, trapped in a world where he had no agency, no control over his own fate. It's a sobering reminder that the struggle for individual freedom and dignity is a constant throughout history.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the story of Nero and Sporus, what's one final thought you'd leave our listeners with?
I'd say this: even though this story took place centuries ago, it still has relevance today. It reminds us to be aware of the power dynamics that exist in our own world, to recognize the humanity of everyone, regardless of their social standing or circumstance.
Well said. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey through history. It wasn't always easy, but it was important. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deeper.